Good morning, everybody. It's time for another delicious edition of Texas Oatmeal, and I got a little ahead of myself today, and I started working on something that many of you may recognize. Yes, it is a glove box cover. So I decided that my old glove box cover didn't look good on the dash anymore. Now that the dash is so clean and pretty, I took it off, and I saw another couple designs of some that were smaller and didn't sit on the outside but sat on the inside edge of the opening. Some that didn't lock, which locking is great. That's the only way. I mean, if you don't lock it, then obviously people can just come up there and get in your glove box. But I haven't been storing anything in there. Like every now and then I'll put a GoPro in there if I go in a store or something, but that's really, really rare, and I can just put the GoPro in my pocket because they're small. So I don't find myself really using the glove box for storage that way. It's mostly for like, I'll throw the extra pair of my goggles or whatever in there for driving at night. The little USB cord is in there for whatever. I have another GoPro mount in there, things like that. It's not stuff that's super critical that I'm gonna lose or I need to keep secure. And there have been a couple times that I've needed to go push the traction control button and it's locked and latched. So I wanted something I could just push open. This guy, where it's mounted in there and you just push it to close and then push it to open. So I bought one. It has a little piece that you mount on the back of here, right? I'm gonna mount it this way because I need it to sit flat, and that's gonna line up with this that has a magnet in it that keeps it closed when it's in the closed position. So I got ahead of myself and started doing all this, and then realized I wasn't filming anything along the way, and it's not finished, obviously. So this is where I'm at. I cut this out of some Kydex or some ABS plastic I had laying around. I don't know where the rest of it went. Oh, there we go. So I've cut a couple of them actually. I had this little piece of it that I got off Amazon. It was like a, whatever this dimension is, like 12 by 12 sheet or something. Ran it through the bandsaw, made a mess, and cut a couple of them. So I've ended up, here's my old one, as you can see. So I made a couple of them. I made one this direction. Right, this is my prototype that I cut and fit in there, and it's great and all that. But I realized that I wanted to wrap it in the carbon material like that is. This only fits in one direction, so I couldn't flip it around or anything. So I had to cut another one. So I cut this one. And then I played with hinge design of like how I wanted these hinges to fit. And these are really junk hinges that I had laying around already. They got kind of messed up because I had to paint them. I didn't have black ones, these were silver, so I just spray painted them real quick. And then got ahead of myself and started messing with them, and I touched them, and now they're not very pretty, but you can't really tell that in the video, I don't think. Anyways, hey. So this is where I'm at. I've got some bolts and nuts that are not really what I want to use, but again, they just needed to do for now, just to test all this. And this, even with these hinges on here, is completely reversible without doing anything to the Vanderhall itself. You don't have to bolt these to the Vanderhall, and I'll show you that right now. So what I've got going here now is this guy. I've got double-sided tape on the back of it. I had to make a little mount. I had a piece of scrap Lexan that I mounted to it that I actually screwed to there. You can see the screws kind of hiding underneath the double-sided tape. And I didn't really countersink them, so there's two pieces of double-sided tape on there. One that I cut around the head of the screw, and then the next set that I set over the top so it would be flat. So I had to modify this a little bit and put a couple screws in there to hold that Lexan down to it, and then some double-sided tape. But there are probably other versions of this latch that sit flat or something that would work just fine and probably better. This is what I found real quick for a couple bucks at Home Depot. But I'm gonna double-sided tape it in here. I've already made the mistake of mounting it here, right? And then not realizing that when you fold this closed, it pushes into here, and now it's at the wrong angle, right? So you have to push it in before you mount it, and I made a little mark on there. I don't know that you can see that. You can't really see. There's a little silver mark in there right at the corner of it right now. That's my spot for, that's where it needs to mount after I did some calculations by attaching this earlier with a piece of double-sided tape, and then it was off a little bit, so I marked where I needed to go back to, because I was actually out here. I needed to go back to here, and that's where I'm at. So anyways, so I peeled it off, stuck more double-sided tape on the back of it, and now I know to mount to here, right? And I put it at an angle that matches the front of this instead of going straight, or you know, what would have been nice is to mount it way up here, which this would work or something, but I just wanted to be able to get it to where the face of this was flat with the back of the panel when it's closed, so it just held it a little more securely. Not that you really needed to, but it's just kind of nice. Gives you that extra little benefit of being secure. Anyways, so that's where I'm at. This mounts there, double-sided tape it. This 3M double-sided tape is super strong. It's ridiculous. So I cleaned this real well, stuck it on there earlier. It wasn't going to go anywhere for a very long time. And you're not using a lot of pressure to push this, so it's not that big a deal. But what happens is there's a little gap between the frame of where the dash sits and the dash itself. I don't know if everybody says this or not. I kind of assume so, because I mean my dash is on tight everywhere it's supposed to be tight. So there's a little bit of a gap. I made these hinges that were real thin. I put some foam on the back of them, some single-sided foam tape that I had to thicken them up so that they sit down in between there real tight. So this, I can't obviously do this one-handed, but okay, so I switched to the point of view cam here on my hat because, you know, awesome. So what I've got going here is, well, I'm going to install this real quick. So again, just double-sided tape. Okay. So I made my little dot for where I need this, and don't put it on backwards like I was about to do. This stuff's super sticky, so just be aware of that when you go to put this on, I'm gonna kind of just barely tack it on just for a second just to test it, and then I'll stick it down real hard if this is right, because you can actually take that double-sided tape off every now and then, or you know, at least a couple times. So that foam allows me a little bit of flex and give, so I can push on it as I go to push it in, right? So that fits there. Same thing here. Slide it all down a little bit. Push on it to get it kind of compressed, and then slide it in. Okay, and that holds really tight, like tight enough that you can move it and reposition it, but once it's in there, it's not going anywhere. So that's the look you're going for, right? So now that it's in there, and mine sits inside this a little bit because I played with the hinges. These hinges just didn't allow me to set it in front of the hinge and still fold it down unless the gap was above the hinge, right? So if I didn't want it to be as close to the bottom edge of the dash to really seal this all up, you could fold it down. But with it up along the edge, right on the edge here, the way this pivot point is, it wouldn't fold down unless it was above the hinge line, right? That's just the way it works. Just the geometry and the math here doesn't allow it to fold down unless it's behind there. I even notched it out and everything to test it. This is the only way this works with these hinges. And I don't feel like buying anything else and going to the store to get different hinges or whatever. I like to use what I've got laying around the house. So this, even though it's inset a little bit, it looks so much cleaner than the one that was on the outside, in my opinion anyways. And I don't mind it being inset. I think it kind of looks kind of cool. It would be better. I've seen some other hinge designs. I talked to a couple of the guys online about how to hinge it where you could set it flat here, right? But it requires modifying the car, which I don't really care. I'll cut into this thing. But just to give you an idea of how you could make one of these that sits like this without modifying your car at all, that's kind of what I was going for. Could you put something in here like my original one that just kind of sits on here, just with the little hooks to hook into it, and then the key latch would swing up and hold it. It requires no modification to your vehicle. So this is the same thing. No modification to your vehicle other than a little bit of double-sided tape back here to hold that in. Okay, so this is actually going to be out a little bit too far, because when I put the little metal piece on the back that makes this magnetic to hold to that, I need to back this up a little bit actually, because this is too far forward. And so since I didn't stick it on super tight, I can actually pull this off of here. And I accidentally hit my button for hazards. So I didn't stick this on super tight, so I can pull this off. And so now I know that my mark was a little too far forward, right? So I'm going to back it up just a touch to make up the difference for the little piece that goes on here, which I didn't bring with me. So before I'm just going to glue this on the back of this, or maybe double-sided tape it. Actually, I'll double-sided tape it. But I just wanted to see, so this is magnetic, right? So I wanted to see how well it would latch here and where it would line up. So that's almost perfect. So where I have that position now, it's going to allow this to all open up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to position this where it doesn't get caught up on anything. I have a wire running back there because that's my wire that goes to my cell phone down here. It runs actually between the gap between the dash and the frame itself. But anyways, so that's kind of going right there. So it's almost in the way. But anyways, so now I know where this is going to be. I can hold this down against this real tight. And if you hold this double-sided tape for about, I don't know, 15-20 seconds with some pretty firm pressure, it actually kind of sets it up where the adhesive sticks better. I don't really know. That's what they say. Put some good pressure on it for 15 or 20 seconds, and it will kind of set, so to speak. And when this stuff's on here, it's not going anywhere. Again, as long as you've cleaned the surface that you're sticking it to, you don't have a dust or debris or something in the way, it's going to be good. That is not going to come off of there at all. So to attach this, I'm going to throw a double-sided tape on it too, just because why not? It works so well. And we're not talking about a lot of pressure that's needed for any of this. And again, always clean everything. So I'm going to put a little alcohol in this rag that I've been using to clean all kinds of stuff, and go clean off the back side of this piece. Ooh, I didn't think about the double-sided tape making it even thicker. So now it's not going to line up. Shit. Oh, well. So I'm going to clean off this real well. I don't really know exactly where it's going to go. That's alcohol, so it's going to dry pretty quick, especially if you blow on it. And it's going to allow it to stick really well. But now this is going to sit back further than I want it to, which actually looks like maybe it is sitting back further. So we're going to give it a shot. So peel that off there, right? I'm going to stick this on again where it's off just a little bit to one side, because I don't need it to be stuck on there exactly in the right spot, like exactly centered, because then it's too close to the edge here. So I'm sticking it on there where it's off to one side a little bit. I'm going to close this, push on that, right? Get it to where it's lined up exactly where I want it, and then boom, that comes off. I can use my pressure technique to hold on this to keep it on there real good, but I mean, it's gonna stick so well, it's ridiculous. Okay, so that's been about 15 seconds or whatever. I just kind of counted in my head. It's gonna be good enough. And now that's magnetized to there. You can pull it away, right? But it clips and holds real nice and strong. And when you push this down, it sits in there real flush where it's supposed to go and looks bueno. So I like it. I think overall that's gonna look, that definitely looks better than what was on there, even though you can see the hinges. You know, I don't like that part of it, that you can see the hinges themselves, but you know, they're black and they don't stick out like a sore thumb or anything. And overall, I think that looks way better and goes with my theme of, you know, my little carbon shifter cover there that I'm using now. The carbon wrap that I did on Ross's already carbon ignition plate. And I wrapped it in more carbon to match the dash. Right, that's all in carbon. The carbon around my temperature gauge. You notice there's my new little clock. I put it on where the heat on and off used to be, and now the carbon on there. So coming together pretty good. So that's gonna be it for today, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
You must be blinded by the lights. We came to shine here. Watch it look daytime in the night. We bring the vibes here. We full of life, you can't